Hi there, and welcome to the latest edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast, which is brought to you by fans for fans, and where the content is absolutely free. It is episode 265 of the Gersnet podcast. I'm your host tonight. I'm Colin Armstrong. Apologies, we're slightly late tonight. I had some technical issues with my laptop, so I've had to rejig everything, and I'm coming to you via my phone now because my laptop's just decided to pack in. So apologies for that. As I say every week, guys, it's just not the pod that we do here at Gersnet. If you get yourself onto the website, you'll find the forums there. There's articles. Frankie's obviously got his social media on the go there. There's a history archive on the website as well. It's just recently had a reboot as well. It's had a serious upgrade. So get yourself onto the website if you can. We would also ask you to subscribe to the YouTube channel and let people know what we're doing here at the podcast. Put the word out there on social media. Tell your pals all about us. All that kind of stuff. Before I bring my guests in, I have to mention our partners at Forest Precision Engineering. They're a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company. They've been a big commercial supporter of Rangers Football Club for many years, and we're delighted they're back in the pod. If you want more information about them, you can go onto their website at www.forestprecisioneng.com. You can also visit the Forest Precision Executive Lounge, which is a stunning hospitality area within the main stand. For information on how to book this unique and intimate space, email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. So I'll bring my guests in. Obviously a bit of just another day in what's been a shit season all round, guys. You know, the league was officially lost today. A bit of a non-event at Ibrox in terms of the game. I've probably filed under the category of 90 minutes of our lives that we'll never get back, but it's just kind of at that stage of the season now. We know we've kind of known for a while now that the league was gone. I think all of us just want the summer to come, but we'll get in about it. So we've got Chris, Jack and David. Chris, how are you?
Not too bad. As you say, Colin, counting down the days until the summer. Pre-season come quick enough.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about this today. I genuinely think since we've returned to the top flight, I think this is the worst season since Gerrard arrived. You know what I mean? It's since Gerrard arrived, there was always, you know, especially in Europe, you know, there was always something happening. There was always a buzz about the place. Okay, you know, we still probably didn't win as many trophies, but this season, I think it was John McCallum that said to me a few weeks ago, you know, all the good stuff happened in August, and it's just pretty much been shite for there on in. So, yeah, as the sooner the summer comes, the better. Is that how you're feeling, David? How are you?
Not bad, Colin. Aye, even Chris, even the listeners. Aye, I think I kind of broadly agree with what you're saying. I think the time under Gerrard that previous seasons we always thought it was a given that we were going to progress. I think this the first kind of season or close season, we're approaching the close season where there's been a bit of debate about where the club actually goes from here. So, you know, we'll hopefully the horizons are a bit brighter.
I think as well on the top of you know, a European final and, you know, the Scottish Cup win. So that the last sort of 4 or 5 days of the season last season really made us think that we're going to challenge this season. You know, if anything, we're going to, you know, we've got a really good chance of winning the title, and it's just went totally the other way. I think for sort of October, November on, we all kind of suspected that this was going to be a hard slog of a season, and that's how it's turned out. But on to today, Chris, so I'll bring you in first. You know, I mean, it was one of those games that, how can I say, it's end of season feel, you know, a few empty seats at Ibrox today, end of season feel about it, a feeling that, you know, the league's gone, there's no trophies to play for. So there was always a kind of feeling that it was going to be a sort of, you know, kind of flat occasion, which I thought it was. However, it did give Beale the opportunity to bring in some other boys, which we'll come and talk about. But I mean, the performance overall, it's okay. Nothing great. Just basically that end of season, nothing to play for. I actually think, again, I was talking to someone today, and I might be wrong in this, but I just quickly done a calculation in my head. I think we could be the only team in the SPFL that doesn't have something to play for at the moment. You know, that everyone else is fighting for places, you know, trying to secure the league place. We've secured second. There's no one can catch us in second. We're we're out the Scottish Cup. We've not won the League Cup. So I don't think there's many other teams, if there are any other teams, that literally have nothing to play for like we do, and it felt like that today.
That is true. Which I think, off the top of my head, I don't think you're a million miles away, Colin. That probably sums up this season for Rangers. That with 4 or 5 games to go, we're the only ones with absolutely nothing on the table. It's just been that kind of season, and today was the kind of basically just kind of summed it up. I thought as a game, as an occasion, as a performance, it was as we expected. It was as we knew it would be. No great surprise that Rangers won. No great surprise that they didn't play overly well. No great surprise that the squad players that were brought in ultimately aren't good enough. I don't think we really learned anything from any of them, apart from Robbie McCrory. I think he was the main kind of positive of the day. Thought Cantwell took his goal really well. Deserved his man of the match. But as the manager said afterwards, playing well at this stage of the season when there's nothing to play for and there's no pressure on, well done. But let's see how you get on when there's actually a bit of pressure on you and you have to go and win these type of games. So I think it was as we expected. There's a couple more to go, and then we can forget all about it, say no more about it, and I say look forward to the summer and what that will bring.
David, I think we were all expected changes in the team today, and we saw that. As Chris alluded to there, Robbie McCrory got a start. Yilmaz came in. Hadji got a start. Matondo got a start. Guys that have not really featured much this season. However, it just kind of felt like the same old Rangers. Looking at the stats again, with 71% of possession, 19 shots, which 7 of those were on target. Totally. When you look at the numbers yet again, and this has been a sort of a trend with this Rangers team. Totally dominant, in terms of possession of the ball and all that kind of stuff, and well into double figures with the shots that we have in goal, but only 7 of them are on target. And Michael Beale made a comment after the game. He says he kind of feels that we're the most wasteful team in the final third that he's ever seen. And at this present moment in time, it's hard to disagree with that, because we do have a lot of possession. The last 2 games against Celtic showed that. We had the bulk of possession, created a few chances, and we're just not taking them. So even
just the same patterns of play, Colin. It's the same. You could look at it 2 ways. You could say, well, it stands to reason if it's the same coaching staff that are setting the tactics. So, look, I think to take the players that you mentioned, thought, like Chris said, I think Robbie McCrory did his chances any harm, and the stops that he had, he acquitted himself reasonably well. I think the first shot when Duke went through, the first shot he had, I thought it was a decent save of his feet. Obviously, a couple of shots saved his feet. Acquitted himself well. And you're looking at that performance and going, well, how come he wasn't pitched in sooner? I think the last time I was on with Chris, I said, we could start questioning whether Robbie McCrory is a decent goalkeeper or not. But he did well. Credit for that. I thought Van Yilmaz again was come into the side and started, giving us a glimpse of what we could possibly look forward to next season. Again, I'm repeating myself here. I've went on record and saying that I quite fancy him in so far as he likes to play the ball forward. He always looks to try and attack the opposition. Robbie Matondo, he's running about, he's trying, I guess, but ultimately pretty toothless. So, it's the same old, Colin. It's a lot of huffing and puffing.
Yeah.
Not a lot of control in the middle of the park, despite Todd Cantwell's, reasonable performance. I thought until he scored, I thought again it was a lot of huffing and puffing. He looks busy enough. He's interested, but I think there's a hell of a lot of work to do in the close season. Obviously, there's going to be new personnel coming into the side and into the squad, but I would say the only way is up for Rangers.
Chris, the sort of big news that's come out of the game, and it's linked to the, that sort of forward area, the attacking side of the team. Beale sort of took a veiled swipe at Morelos in the press conference, saying that he saw a difference in the second half in energy levels and all that kind of thing when Morelos came on, but not in a positive way. And then basically confirmed that Morelos won't be here next season. He's away in the summer. So I was doing a wee bit of digging on Morelos before we came on tonight, and I was actually stunned to find out that he's still only 26. You know, at that age, you know, I've always been it's been drilled into me that 26, 27, 28, that's when players should be coming to their peak. It feels with Morelos, it's actually going the other way. It feels to me like his best year at Rangers was 18, 19, particularly in the Europa League. Since then, it's just been a gradual deterioration. And this season, I think he's phoned it in all season, to be honest with you. I think some of his performances have been pretty shameful, if I'm being honest. And it just feels like, you know, the fact that he's away, we've spoken here many times thinking that's him away and that we were going to get a fee for him for one reason or another. Deals didn't happen and he hung about. Now it looks like it really is away. We won't receive a fee. And it doesn't feel like he's going, you know, with the sort of best of feelings on both sides. You know, I think a lot of Rangers supporters have kind of lost patience with him. I certainly have. I appreciate what he's done for the club, but I need more from a Rangers striker. It seems to me the club are obviously done with him. Beale, I think, is just done with him. I think there's been an issue with every single manager. Gio had to, you know, discipline him earlier on this season. It just feels like a poor end. You know, to me, if he'd done 2 or 3 years and went, you know, for decent money at the point when he was performing, it would have been a great move all round. It's kind of feeling like it's turning into a bad move, you know, that he's our top goal scorer in Europe, but he just always let us down. At some point in the season, he just always let us down. And now he's kind of walking out the door and it's like, well, was that worthwhile? You know, it just feels like a poor end to his Rangers career.
It's not even the lack of a fee for me, to be honest with Colin. It's just, as you say, that the way that it's kind of petering out, or it's almost get snowballed in the last wee while. It's quite a sad end to what should have been a really memorable Rangers career. He's looked back, he's not won enough, but the team and the squad's not won enough. He's not entirely complicit in his own way in that. I just think it's a career in the Rangers career that should have brought so much more while he was here, and should have really taken him on to higher levels. Not back 2, 3, 4 years ago, we're talking Sevilla being linked, Porto being linked, AC Milan were at Ibrox to watch him for a European game. And that's the type of level we thought, now this boy has got something, he could get to that type of level one day. I never saw him as a Chelsea striker or a Barcelona striker. He's not that good. But at a certain level in Europe, as he's seen and as he's shown, he could be very, very effective. And it should have been at a club, maybe not a bigger club in terms of stature and history, but it should
a bigger league.
It should have been playing in a bigger league, picking up bigger wages as a result of that, and really going on to establish himself at a certain level in that league, in good teams, and at a certain level in Europe. Where does he end up going now? Does he go to the Middle East? Does he go Far East? Does he go back to South America? I'm sure he'll go somewhere. He'll pick up a wage. He'll be quite happy with life on and off the park. Surely at some time the penny drops and he thinks, I've made a mistake somewhere along the line here. I had it really, really good at Rangers, and for one reason, whether it's mentality, whether it's fitness, whether it's off the field, at some point he must think, I've dropped the ball here. This could have been so much better than it has been. I said it stings the fact that Rangers won't get a fee for him, but I think it's just the way that his Rangers career is just going to peter out, and it's the end on quite a sad and sour note. And it didn't have to be like that.
David, where do you stand with Morelos? Because I have slowly just given up on the guy. I think there was, you know, it used to be, you know, with a player like that, someone who was performing well for the club, and you knew they would go at some point. You know, you dreaded them going. You know, you knew someone was going to come in and say to them, and you dreaded the day, like, oh, that boy's going to go at some point. It doesn't feel like that with Morelos to me. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I just think, to put it as bluntly as possible, I think he's ripped the piss for a good couple of years now. I think he's phoned it in this season. Don't think there's any doubt about that. I expect more for Rangers strikers in terms of mobility and goals and impact in the game. And I think there was an incident last week in that semi-final. It's the first time I've seen Michael Beale in the first half look really angry, and I kind of felt the anger was levelled at specifically Kent and Morelos, that they just weren't applying themselves the way he wanted. And that's kind of how it feels. It just feels like it's a bit of a horrible, sad end to what could have been a lot better.
I go along with what both you and Chris say, Colin. I think it's frustration, really, because, you know, when he burst into the scene at first, you know, it looked as though he had potential, and he looked, you know, for the most part, he's fulfilled a lot of that potential, but his disciplinary issues, he obviously, it took too long from the penalty drop to realise that he was a target, and his indiscretions, you know, hindered him. But there's no getting away from it. There was a period of time where he was, I would say, he was a fierce striker, and he was playing at a high level, and he could have went on to play at a higher level. I just looked at him today. I mean, the way the guy's carrying is an absolute joke. Now, you've got to, again, it's a double-edged sword. How much he's doing to the player. Well, obviously, you expect a level of professionalism if you're Michael Beale and his coaching staff, but the fact that they've not been able to shed that weight from him, it's pretty disappointing, I would say. And it's a sad reflection on Alfredo's time in the club. But, you know, we move on. It's just sad that he's went out with a whimper.
Chris, what do you think the issue is? Is it his attitude? Is it his mentality? Because I'm like you. I think players like this, at some point in his life, it might be 5 years after he retires, it might be 10 years after he retires, I think you'll look back and think, actually, I maybe made an arse of that there. You know, I could have went on. I agree with you. I don't think he was going to be a top striker with one of your top Champions League clubs, but I certainly think he could have played for a decent club in England, decent club in Spain. You know, the sort of second level clubs. You know, certainly a higher league, earning more money than he's earning now, and got the club a fee. And I just wonder if, you know, if the level of sort of money that he's receiving now, which is decent compared to the normal man in the street, and compared to his own background, where he comes from, is that maybe just killed his motivation? He's just thought, you know, I've got a decent standard of living here, you know, I quite like it, don't need to really try too hard and all the rest of it. Because that 18-19 season, you know, the night against Feyenoord, the goals against Porto, all the rest of it, as David says there, he was definitely feared. You know, he was definitely getting talked about. And to end up where he is now, because I like conversations I've had with other Rangers fans, like, where is he going to go? You know what I mean? Who's going to take a player that has the attitude that he appears to have, that's carrying the weight that David spoke about? Surely he's damaged himself here in terms of his next move, because he's surely limiting his options now.
I would say so. I don't really know where he goes now to take his career up a level. There's every chance that Rangers is as good as it's ever going to get for him. Certainly in terms of being at a club with the level of support and level of expectation, the chances that would win trophies in European football, everything that Rangers offers him, it should have been the foundation, it should have been the platform to then go bigger and go again, because, as we've said, he does have that talent. He could have been a really important and really impressive striker at a certain level in European football. So where does he go now? I think it's heading to, he'll make decent money, be quite happy. But sometimes it's about more than money. I think, and that's what separates good players from great ones. Great ones have that drive and that motivation every single season to keep going, to keep striving for better. And it's weird, you look at some of the figures in that dressing room, surely you should be looking at Alan McGregor, at Scott Arfield, at Steve Davis, and saying, well, these guys were never going to be at my level. I could have played at a higher level than these guys. Mm-hmm. But they're still doing what they're doing because they're winners, because they've got the mentality, because they turn up every single day, give their all, and they maximise their career. Alfredo is never going to maximise his career now, because it's gone too far. He's wasted, as you were saying earlier on. He's in should be in the prime of his career, but he's wasted the last couple of seasons, and I don't see how he makes up the ground to get back to.
Final point on Morelos, David, is part of the problem maybe the lack of competition, especially over the last couple of years, with Roof being injured. I think the last time we really saw the best of Morelos was the 55 season, and that's the season we got the most football out of Roof. So he had a real fight on his hands to keep his jersey, and that kept the two of them keen and pushing for goals, and they both delivered that season. Is that maybe been part of the problem, the fact that there's just been a real lack of competition in that particular position? I know Cholak's came in in the summer there, but he started with a flurry, kind of fell away, and he's got his own injury issues now. And I do wonder if just the fact that he knew the jersey was his didn't help his attitude.
I think the lack of competition is definitely it's got something to do with it. But I would also question who's advising him, who's his agent. What's the deal there? I look at him today, and either he's signed for somebody, and they've managed to keep it quiet, or you look at his shape today. Is that going to be attractive to potential suitors? I would question that, Colin. But he's had enough chances, as you mentioned there. He's worked under guys with serious reputations in the game, and he's almost thrown it back in their faces. So, but as Chris says, it'll be interesting to see where he goes for a year, because it'll be, unlikely that he's going to go and further his career through the platform that Rangers afforded him. Yeah,
we'll find out. But I think it's a downward move, no doubt about it. On to the other side of the spectrum, someone who's sort of young and upcoming, Robbie McCrory. Chris, started today. I think it's his first start since that game against Celtic a couple of seasons ago, when we were hit with COVID and had to bring players in. I thought he played really well today. He only had 2 or 3 saves to make, but the first one especially I thought was a really, really good save. And I found it quite interesting that Beale indicated after the game that he would be continuing in goals. Now, whether that stretches to next week, obviously I think Alan McGregor would want one more crack at Celtic, but we'll see. But as we've said earlier on, we are literally the only club, or one of very few clubs in the top flight at the moment, that literally has nothing to play for. Why not stick him in? Why not just say, let's see what this boy's got for the next few games? Because I was quite impressed with him today.
You have to find out whether he's good enough ultimately, because he's been given his contract last October or so time, maybe he signed it, and that was like faith in McCrory as a potential long-term Rangers goalkeeper. But you need to know if he's actually capable of doing it. I know Robbie thinks he is. The coaching staff I think that he is, but the manager still has to find out whether he is or not. Personally, I would have played him a couple of weeks ago, as soon as the league was done, even though it's been done for a long time. I would have given him the last 10 games or so. But I understand why the manager didn't want to. He had to keep some kind of momentum going and keep things on a even keel heading into the semi-final. He's really got nothing to lose now. Obviously, the next couple of games, I know you say McGregor probably won't win last Old Firm game. You'd like to imagine McGregor gets a farewell game at some point. You could maybe give John McLaughlin one last run out just to see Cherry because obviously he'll be away in the summer as well. But if you park all the sentimental side of it, Robbie has come in, done. I thought he played really well today. Deserves to keep his jersey, and if he's going to have any chance of being number 1 or number 2 next season, these last couple of games are really important for him. There's obviously Jack Butland potential signing. If he comes in, he's coming in as number 1, you would imagine. And then comes down to whether Robbie wants to be number 2 and try and push and take a chance, or whether he says, "Look, it's time to move on," because at his age, he has to go and play, and really has to go and establish himself somewhere. Certainly for his international aspirations as well. So I thought his performance was really good today. Some good saves. I thought the one of his feet earlier on from Duke was a really, really smart save. Yeah. I thought he handled Aberdeen, could throw at him, good in the air. The distribution was good. And so I would have no fears about pitching him in next week against Celtic, see how he handles it, see what he does. And then come the end of the season, you can determine whether he's going to, if he's done enough and has enough promise and potential to say, right, he's going to be number 1 next year, or you try and convince him to remain at Ibrox and try and be part of the squad under somebody else.
David, I mean, he was in goals the last time we beat Celtic over 90 minutes. That 1-0 game at Ibrox. I think it was Hollander that scored the winner that day. So he was, and he's played in an Old Firm game before. He's been there, done it, and won. You know what I mean? We won that day. So I'm kind of leaning towards, just sticking him in next week and see what happens. Where are you? Would you give him a run out next week?
He's got to play to the end of the season. I get sentiment. We've got to give Alan a send off. That goes without saying.
Did we not do that at the Scottish Cup final last season though?
Well, you said that. I didn't.
Just saying.
But look, all jokes aside, Alan definitely deserves a send off. But am I right in saying he's getting a testimonial?
He is, yeah.
Well, that's the time for Alan's send off with the fans. Robbie's got to get a game. He's come in the day. He's played well. He's allayed any immediate fears, shall we say, that some fans might have had about whether he was competent enough. Duke had his shooting boots on. It's arguable that Aberdeen could have been 2-0 up before Rangers scored today. So you've got to bear that in mind. Obviously, Robbie played his part in prevent that from actually happening. So look, he's the man that's in charge. That's in charge of the jersey now. I would stick with him, Colin. And whilst there's none to play for really next week other than Pride, he deserved his place, and we should. I mean, that's the type of proving ground where we're going to see whether young players can cut it. You've rightly said. I mean, he's come in before when the other two goalkeepers were injured, and he came in and he performed amicably. Stick with him. I don't think you don't need to be a rocket scientist, I should say, to stick with that and come to that conclusion. So he's got to play.
On to Yilmaz, Chris. Started again today. Been a bit of a frustrating season for him. His debut season. Obviously had that injury that took him out for a wee while. I mean, he's had limited game time. So it's kind of hard to judge him, and I get that. But I have to say, the times it has been there, I slightly disagree with David on this. I know he was sort of singing his praises a wee bit earlier on. I'm actually not that convinced that he's any better than Borna. You know what I mean? And I've not seen anything so far that makes me think he was worth the outlay that we've shelled out from. So, do we stick with him over the summer? Is that a position that we look to strengthen, or do we stick with Yilmaz and just say, right, okay, we've paid this money on him, we go next season and see what he produces? Because, I mean, it is hard to judge him based on the game time he's had, but what limited game time he has had, I think there's been very little there to suggest that he's any better than the man that was already there.
I have to agree, Colin. I think he's looked okay. Does he look £5 million worth of potential Turkish internationalist? I have my doubts. I think the games he's played, he's done fine. He's not made any howlers. He's not been caught out time after time. Has he done anything spectacular? Apart from a wee flick against Queen of the South that set up the half-field goal, I can't really remember anything that he's done that I've thought, this boy's got something. I think he's been fine. The injury obviously came at a bad time for him, just as looking to establish himself. That then obviously cost him a lot of game time under Michael Beale. To be fair to Barisic, I thought after Beale came in, his performance levels went up, and he's been okay. He's probably been like 7 out of 10 since then. But that left back position is one you're thinking there's obviously not a out of contract situation there, but therefore it's not a priority in terms of somebody has to leave and therefore somebody has to come in. Is it one that Rangers could do better in? Probably. Is it one that I see them addressing? Not overly. I think if you've got Barisic under contract there for another season, you just keep him. You're not going to make millions off him. He knows the score. You know exactly what you're getting from him. And you give Yilmaz a jersey at the start of the season. If he goes and he improves and he impresses and he keeps it, great. You can maybe bond to something. If he doesn't, at least then you've got somebody there that you know exactly what they're going to give you. So right now, I don't really see it as a key pressing concern for Rangers. But that doesn't mean to say that I think they're definitely onto something at left back. I think it is something that might have to be addressed further down the line.
What about yourself, David? I'll give you right to reply because obviously you were singing Yilmaz's praises earlier on.
Well, look, the guy's hardly kicked a ball, so it's too early to judge. other than the fact he's pretty diminutive in his stature, I can see where Chris is coming from. I can see where you're coming from. He's not exactly set the head of a light, but did the club sign him for nothing? They've paid a lot of money for him, so they must have seen something in him. And I'm presuming that it wasn't just Ross Wilson that signed him. So, look, he's got all to prove, but then you could level that at a lot of players. The club's in such a state of flux in a minute, Colin, and potentially he's going to, there's a lot of bedding in to do for presumably a whole raft of players that are presumably going to come in the summer. So he falls into that category. Maybe it would just be a fresh start for him. He's been here. By the time next season starts, he'll have been here a year. So you'd like to think that he's settled in. Maybe he hasn't. That's one of the things. It might just be that the boy's just struggling to settle, and it might be that it's best that he's moved on. So we'll need to wait and see. I think the side's in such a kind of a low ebb at the minute. It's easy to kind of home in the foibles of certain players, and when guys that have come in for serious, what we would perceive to be serious money, and haven't exactly pulled up any trees, that's going to just draw more attention to these types of performances. But look, he's got all to do. As of tons of them, to be honest.
Another one that came in the day, David, I'll stay with you, it was Hadji. Again, another one that's had a rough year with injury, with the cruciate injury, kept him out for a year. He's been getting some game time recently. I have to be honest, again, he's another one that looks like he's struggling at the moment. He certainly looks some way off at the moment from the levels that we've seen him capable of reaching. There's rumours of a potential move in the summer. I think he sort of came out through the week there and denied that and said that he wasn't interested. He wanted to stay with Rangers, but it kind of feels like he's another player where there's a decision that needs to be made. And where do you stand? Would you be for keeping him, or do you think it's best for club and player that he moves on elsewhere?
Oh, that's a hard one, Colin. Well, obviously he signed a contract, so the club's obviously looking to maybe potentially move him on at some point, or realise some worth from him. In terms of the kind of contracts management side of things. I could be reading something wrong into that, but it's a difficult one. I mean, Yanis Hadji's he's blown hot and cold in his Rangers career. He's never really set the header truly alight. I know I'm using the same cliches over and over. Apologies for that. It's a difficult one, Colin. It's who do you pair players up with? I think the last time I was on, I mentioned about Nico Raskin. Who does Beale see him paired up with? We'll inform, I would imagine, a lot of fans' judgment of how good a player Nicola Raskin could be. I think the same could be said for Yanis Hadji. Would I be shedding any tears if he was to move on? Possibly no. I mean, Rangers have kind of almost reached a. It's almost like it feels like a glass ceiling, as if they've reached a point where they can't really afford to go any further. Certainly financially, in terms of buying ready-made players. And I know that Rangers are never really in the market for ready-made players, but it looks as if they've stagnated, and it's. There's no a heck of a lot to look forward to in terms of is there going to be serious progression in our team. Obviously, Michael's went on record and says there's going to be a high turnover of players in the coming months. So maybe that kind of potential might be rebooted, so to speak. So does Yanis Hadji factor into that? Only time will tell me.
What about yourself, Chris Hadji? Do you think we could be seeing the last of him over the next couple of weeks?
It's a tricky one, as you both said. I like Yanis. I think he's a smart guy. I think he comes across well, represents himself in the club well. Thought he spoke really smartly at his press the other day there. He's clearly got talent. He clearly can contribute to a successful Rangers team, because he has done. I think he understands the club. I think he gets the kind of pressure side of it. Is he going to be a mainstay of a Rangers side that goes and wins the title next season? I don't think so. I think he's obviously it's hard to judge him too harshly because he is really short of football. He's obviously still building up his fitness and his sharpness. Got a long way to go. I think you give him a pre-season, and I think you'll be able to tell fairly early on after that pre-season campaign what level he's at, and if that level is going to be high enough or not. I think the thing that counts against him, if you like, being a key part of the team, is actually one of the positives of him, because he's one of the few guys that's actually got some value in the transfer market. He's also signed his new contract. He's of a good age and profile. If Michael Beale decides he's not for him, he will be for someone else. It's not as if you're completely writing him off. Say Barisic, you're talking hundreds of thousands. Somebody you might be able to get a couple of million for Hadji. And as much as Beale might like him, it almost comes a point of, well, can that money be used elsewhere on somebody that I can bring in just to keep freshen things up a wee bit? So I think Hadji could have a career or a part to play next year. But also, if he moved on, I wouldn't be overly surprised.
Matondo, another one who's came in for decent money. Again, I think it was David that spoke earlier on tonight, saying huffed and puffed, worked hard, but I think you would just have to say it was another kind of average performance from Chris. And I mean, overall, you'd have to say it's been a really, really poor debut season from him. I think there was huge expectations. That right side has been causing us problems for a while now. I think Aribo worked quite effectively there for a period, but obviously he left in the summer. It just always felt like we needed someone who was like a proper right-sided midfielder who could do that job. When he signed, I think we all thought we'd solve that problem. I think we can all come to the conclusion now that's not the case. And I think it's another one for Michael Beale to sit down and think, well, a decision needs to be made about his future at the club. Is he good enough? In my opinion, based on what I've seen, I don't think he is. But there's plenty of players that have started their Rangers careers poorly and came on, but I just don't see it with him.
No, not at all. The biggest thing for me with Matondo is how Schalke ever paid £13 million for him. There's no way he's of that level. One of the guys that works for a different paper spoke to someone out in Belgium in the summer, and there was guys over there saying, "Oh, no, this boy, he's great talent. Now, what a player Rangers have got." But it was in a very unique set of circumstances. It was for a team that doesn't play the same as Rangers. It doesn't play against teams who are packing defences and sitting 15 yards for their own goal line.
Yeah.
You need half a pitch to run into. And if you're giving somebody with his pace half a part to run into, of course he's going to sweep past defenders and think, what a player this boy is. Here, it just doesn't work. I think his first attack today, he almost ran straight into the fullback as if the guy was just going to disappear and vanish into thin air. That's just not how it works up here. I just don't see how he fits into a Rangers side. It's all a touch of like Michael O'Halloran about him almost.
Yeah.
He's better technically, and he's clearly got more talent than O'Halloran. But in terms of a style of someone who can run really quickly in straight lines and be effective for a counter-attacking team, that's not Rangers. It might be in certain circumstances, maybe in an Old Firm game at Parkhead, maybe in certain European games, you can say, we'll stick him in, and he gives an out ball and he gives us something over the top, and he can go and chase lost causes. Against your Aberdeens and your St Mirrens and your Kellys at Ibrox, he's almost rendered useless because he's not technically good enough to break down these teams. He doesn't have those wee passes. He doesn't shoot and score from 25 yards. Doesn't have those moments of magic in him. And for the outlay, I just don't see what he's bringing to the party. So again, one of the guys that bizarrely still has some, as poor as he has been, will still have some residual value in the market. If he can get as much back of the fee that you paid for him, I think you write it off. You say no more about it. You wish him well, and we try and find somebody that can actually do the job in that area of the side, because for years now that role just has not been adequately addressed.
David, on to some of the subs that weren't used today, specifically the young boys. Liam King, Adam Devine, Alex Lowry were all on the bench today. And again, given the fact that we literally have nothing to play for. It was surprising. I would actually say it was quite surprising none of them started, if I'm being honest. I thought maybe one of them, I think everyone would be obviously looking at Lowry to feature at some point. And particularly for King and Lowry, after a wee sort of period where they were getting a bit of game time and having a wee bit of success, it's starting to feel like, again, the decisions might have to be made about their futures. I think Beale went public about Lowry and sort of hinted at, maybe a little issue with his attitude and stuff like that. But, I mean, we'll come on and talk about Craig Mulholland, and the people that have left the club. But I think the fact that there's not enough boys coming through into the first team is why Craig Mulholland's no longer in a job. But if you can't play the likes of King, Devine and Lowry in a game like today, when exactly are these boys going to be good enough to get game time? You know what I mean? It just felt like the most obvious game to stick them in, and they never even came off the bench.
It's a head scratcher, Colin. It's been when Todd Cantwell signed and I seen him at first. One of the thoughts that entered my mind sitting at the game, I was thinking to myself, I wonder what Alec Lowry's old man thinks watching Todd Cantwell. Similar type of player, albeit we've actually more experience than first team experience than Alec Lowry, but looked to be muchness in terms of the playing style. Adam Devine again came into the side, didn't disgrace himself at all at left back, playing out of position. Liam King, slightly different, thrown in at the deepest of deep ends at Champions League level. Didn't equip himself too well, but the boy's young, so you can come up a slack there. But for these guys not to come in the day, I mean, you mentioned there that Michael's alluded to possibly disciplinary issues or attitude issues, rather than disciplinary issues, but attitude issues with Alec Lowry. I mean, that's, if I'm hearing that, I'm thinking to myself, hold on a minute, you're playing a guy like Morelos, who's got presumably some issues in terms of, how he manages himself as a professional on and off the pitch. So, it's a strange one, Colin. Again, it's slipped back to the Robbie McCrory situation I described a couple of weeks back. The question marks are hanging over these boys' heads. You're actually thinking, are they going to make it? Are they going to be good enough to make it? But then you look at what we're actually witnessing on the pitch. Some guys that are coming with a supposed reputation, and you're looking at them and you're going, are these guys all they're cracked up to be? What's up with the standard of player that's coming through the academy? It's another one of these ones, Collins. You could have knee-jerk reactions and judge the academy and the boys that are playing, especially in lights of, maybe BP Youth Cup final defeats another night there, and look at it and say, have we got guys coming through? Bailey Rice is a name that springs to mind. But the guys ahead of him, you've got to be questioning whether you're going to get a look at him next season. So, maybe there are legitimate questions to be answered during the close season about whether these lads' immediate futures lie with the club, or rather they're likely to possibly move out on loan. But then again, having said all that, you've got the homegrown quota to fulfil. So are these guys going to feature on the bench, just to tick a box in terms of fulfilling role requirements? The boys and their agents and their families are going to, legitimately question whether that's going to be good for their careers in the long term. So it's one of these unanswered questions. I'm sorry I can't put any more on it than that.
I mean, you mentioned Cantwell there, David. Chris, I mean, his goal today, I thought it was an excellent finish. Really, really well controlled finish, and accurate, all that kind of stuff. And he is starting to look the business, like a really good bit of business for the club. I do feel he needs more from the front three. I think he needs something more from them. And if we bring the right players in next season, hopefully that'll click in. But it does feel like, of the two major signings that Beale brought in, that Cantwell's looking like the one that could really go on to do something for us.
I think probably just because of the position that he plays and the type of player that he is, he looks more the game changer, match winner type. That's probably a bit harsh on Raskin, because that's obviously not his role on the side. I think he has started well, and he looks like a good bit of business, and type of player that Rangers, if they manage his contract correctly, unlike some, they shouldn't lose money on him, hopefully, or certainly make a bit of money on him. Cantwell, these type of games are all, as I said earlier on, it's all fine and well, turn it on in this type of fixture when there's no pressure on. He'll know himself he has to perform in the bigger games next year. But I thought there's definitely something there. I thought he did take his goal really well earlier today, but he also said in the presser, you could have got the feeling he didn't really mean it, because he was asked if that's something they worked on in training, and he said, Harry Watling will say yes, but it wasn't really. So I don't know if it was a moment of genius, or just a moment where, well, they've tried something and it's come off. But to be fair to him, he is one of the few guys in the squad capable of that type of finish. If that opportunity had fallen to so many others in the squad, it would have ended up halfway up the Copeland rear. So no, fair play to him for being able to finish it off. Next season, I think there's definitely more to come from him. I think it's like a really exciting bit of business.
On the next season, David, the league's on again for the second year in a row. As I said earlier on, it kind of feels like since our return to the top flight, it's the first time, as you say, that it doesn't feel like we've progressed. We've actually regressed a wee bit. We've been back the way. Beale said today after the game, that the club will assess and be honest in its feedback in terms of where they go for next season. So it does feel like a big summer. There's obviously a lot going on in the background, but we'll hopefully have time to talk about the rake of sort of exits from the boardroom and the executive team and all that kind of stuff. But it does feel like it could be a big summer this year. You know what I mean? I mean, for example, Tillman, another thing as well that Beale's sort of been talking about recently, saying he's away back to Bayern to have his injury assessed. Have we seen him for the last time in the Rangers jersey, for example? Is he worth that $5 million fee that's been discussed? So lots of stuff for the club to address through the summer.
Undoubtedly, it's a huge summer for the club. The manager obviously is all too aware of that. I mentioned again, I'm repeating myself, the pressures in the market are exacting for Michael Beale. We can't afford any slippage, really. We've got so many key positions to address in the pitch, never mind the squad, that we've got to hit the ground running. To briefly take Tillman divides opinion. I think £5 million, depending on the size of the budget, may well represent too much of a risk in terms of the player being possibly a luxury that we could ill afford. However, having said that, you look at how much outlays went on Ben Davies, with Van Yilmaz, the money that's been reported that's been shelled out in them. Is the £5 million alleged clause going to be triggered on Malik's loan agreement? Does that represent too much a risk? That would tend to kind of maybe waver your opinion slightly. But look, I think there's so many positions to address in the pitch. Obviously, the goalkeeper's one. Again, I'm repeating myself here. I was on with Chris the last time we discussed these questions. The defence needs looked at, the middle of the park needs looked at, and up front certainly needs looked at. So, I don't envy Michael Beale's task. Obviously, he looks to be taking on the responsibility wholesale this summer. So, all the more reason to get it right, because we can't be chopping and changing if things go south, which obviously for obvious reasons I hope they don't. But there's so many ins potentially that we've got to get it right. And it's again, I'm repeating myself here. I don't envy Michael Beale's job one little bit.
Chris, are we maybe? I was thinking about this through the week. Are we maybe overestimating the job that needs done here, because okay, we've finished the season empty-handed, but I think even although we've lost the last couple of games against Celtic, they have been tight affairs, and it's been, we've done the damage ourselves on both occasions. It's just stupid goals we're conceding all the time, and obviously lacking that bit of creativity up front in terms of scoring goals. Now, I'll go back to the 85-86 season. Rangers finished 5th in a 10-team league. We were as close in points to Clydebank in last place as we were to Celtic in first place. The following season, those same players won the league. Souness arrived and he signed, 3 top-class players in Butcher, Woods and Roberts. But essentially, your Stuart Monroes, your Dave McPhersons, your Robert Flex, your Ali McCoy, your Davy Cooper, your Jimmy Nichols, all the same boys that were in that team the previous season, because of those 3 players arriving, reached the levels that were required to win a title. So are we overestimating? I mean, you hear all these numbers about 10 coming in and all the rest of it. I'm not convinced we need that. Obviously we need something. If I would focus anywhere, I would be focusing on the front 3 and saying, right, we need to get that right, because obviously Kent and Morelos in particular, I've chucked it. I've spoken about Matondo. I think that's where most of the work needs done. Obviously, goalkeeper as well, maybe another left centre half, what have you. But I think the majority of the work needs up front. So are we overestimating what needs done? Are we as far off from Celtic as everyone says we are?
I think the manager made the point after the game today. He's made quite a few times. It's the problems this season have been in both boxes. They've conceded, as you say, silly, sloppy, poor goals all season. Other end, again, as we said earlier on, the number of chances that have been missed, and even in games that we've won, the number of chances that have been missed this season has been criminal at times. If they can get a goalkeeper, whether it's Butland, whether it's McCrory, whether it's anybody else, that's a start. I think they need a centre half, need cover at full backs. I've also mentioned Yilmaz and Barisic earlier on. I'd like a bit of cover at right back. Middle of the pitch, I think there's a promise there we're asking in Cantwell. It looks like Ryan Jack might get another campaign out too. Up front, as you say, Colin, there's major work. You're talking to replace Morelos, who's been the talisman for seasons. Cholak, I don't really fancy as part of a real team, so you may be looking to replace him. Roof, even if he's still on the books, he has to be replaced in the squad, because you can't rely on him.
Yeah, just can't get him in the part. Yeah,
and you're then looking at also replacing Kent. You need somebody to echo on the other side and play wide right. I think the problem that Rangers have got, they could sign 4 or 5 players and really improve the starting 11. It's the squad depth. Is there enough there in the guys that are there already to say, well, you can step in? Could you say, well, we'll keep Scott Wright because he'll do a job? Is that job good enough? We'll hold on to Harfield, who I like and have a lot of time for. If you hold on to him and say, oh, he'll do a job, is that job going to be good enough? And that's what Michael Beale has to decide. Are the guys that he's starting in games right now, if they are to drop down from being starters to largely squad players, can they be relied on often enough to do the job to get us through when your summer signings need a rest or picked up a knock here, here or there? And that's why I think a lot of the punters are saying it has to be more widespread than that, because they've seen the starting 11, when their faith have been put in them time after time, they've seen them fail time after time. So how can you then put your faith in them again if these guys are going to be the guys that you go to in times of adversity when you need your squad to really help you through? So I don't think it'll be like 14 out, 14 in. If it ends up being 10 out and 10 in, I wouldn't be that surprised, to be honest with you.
Right, on to matters off the park, David, it was revealed a couple of days ago there that Andrew Dixon has left the club. I think he's been at the club for 30 years, something like that. Chief sort of financial officer type role. But he's joining an increasing list of exits at the sort of executive board and all that kind of stuff. So obviously Douglas Part's away, Ross Wilson's away, Stuart Robertson is leaving. They announced that Craig Mulholland is away as well. I was speaking to to John McCallum from the pod on this, and he described it as the night of the long knives. It just feels like no one's safe at the moment. There's just a lot of upheaval at that sort of executive and boardroom level. Is this the new chairman? Is this John Bennett coming in? I see him maybe been sitting, when he was the sort of assistant chair, was he sort of looking at people thinking, I don't think you're doing the job that needs to be done, and now he's in control. He's taking the steps that he feels need to be taken to get the club back on its feet.
It could be, but does he represent the other major shareholders' viewpoint? That's you'd need to be actually inside the boardroom to get the load in on that one. It's obviously going to be a big reset. A lot of the guys that you mentioned there have been there for a number of years. Have they delivered? That's up for debate. I mean, Andrew Dixon struck me as a strange one. Obviously, part of his remit's football administration, so complying with SFA and UEFA protocols would be part of his job, I'd imagine. Seemed a strange one, but maybe that's the fact that his job does that signal possibly a corporate rationalisation or a club rationalisation as opposed to a corporate one. Craig Mulholland, when you look at who's come through the academy since he's been in charge of it, has it borne a lot of fruit? Again, debatable. Nathan Patterson's obviously the one that springs to mind immediately. But there doesn't seem to be anything, anybody else really, knocking down the manager's door saying, I'm good enough, I should be played. So, I'm thinking that guys like Zach Mayo, Josh McPake, these types of lads that have maybe, looked as though they could possibly feature in the medium term, and they've not done anything. So, it seems as if the club is ready for a big step change. If is there anything else behind that, with regards to rumours of takeovers and what have you? Is it a case of the deck's been cleared for new people coming in? Don't know. It's all rumours, Colin, but certainly it's there's two ways you can look at it. You can look at it and suspect that there's things afoot, or you could look at it at the positive slant and say, right, it's time for a fresh start, and there's a lot of presumably improvement to come if they get the appointments and the personnel right. So, look, I'm trying to be positive. Let's hope that this heralds a new beginning. We've obviously had, there's a lot of times elapsed since they had to how should we put it, take a massive risk with Steven Gerrard, being an ex-player that pitched into his first managerial job. But for the most part, that was seen to be as a success and certainly a catalyst for better things. Is it time for another reset that could possibly bring about a similar level of improvement from where we were when Stevie assumed the reins after the ill-fated reigns of Graham Murray and Pedro Caixinha? We'll need to wait and see, mate.
But with yourself, Chris, a lot of movement. A lot. It's hard. I don't think I can remember so many moves at that sort of boardroom level. So many exits, and obviously, James Bisgrove is looking to take over Stuart Robertson's position. But it seems like the rest are all up for grabs. We don't know who's coming in, and it just feels like a huge amount of restructuring. And as David sort of hinted there, there's all these rumours doing the rounds on WhatsApp and what have you, of potential takeovers and all that kind of thing. So it does feel like that it's not just on the park where there's a lot of change happening, it's also off the park.
I think this summer is probably the kind of ideal moment for it. I think if you take them all individually, you look at the chairman, it was time for Douglas Park to move on. He's done his bit, he's put his money in. Everybody will have their own opinion on his stewardship and how successful it was. Ultimately, he was chairman when 55 was won, and when we got to a European final. If you judge it on that was a success. I think John Bennett's a very different type of personality. I think he'd be a very different type of chairman. He'd be more hands-on. I think he'd be more accountable. I think he'd be more public. The same can be said for James Bisgrove at Chief Exec. I think he'll be more front and centre. I think the the communication is something that they know they've not been that good at over the last couple of years, and they know that's something that has to improve. Over the next couple of weeks, you will hear from both of them in terms of laying out their vision for the future and can explain some of these changes and just what they've done at that kind of executive boardroom level and executive football level. I think for Ross and Stuart, the time had come to move on. Now, when you're the subject of that level of anger amongst the fans, there's nothing in it for you to stay on. The two of them, they were never going to win over the support. They were never going to get people back on side. When your face is on banners and on placards at Fir Park, it's time to go. So Stuart's got another opportunity outside of football. I think he's done his bit. He's been at the club for a long time. Again, through some highs and some lows. Ross Wilson, we've spoken about often enough in terms of his success, failure, or somewhere in the middle. Again, I think it was the ideal time for him to move on. Andrew Dixon, I don't think many people will be that upset. He's also not that huge a figure. I think if you said to people, "No, what does Andrew Dixon actually do?" they'll be able to tell you his job title, just because they always hear it at the AGM. In terms of the day-to-day, the fans won't have an insight into what he does. But there's also a role there for Rangers to fill. In terms of Craig, a guy I've got a lot of time for. I think he's done a good job overall, mainly because he picked up an academy that was decimated by years of mismanagement and underinvestment, and it will take time for those processes. If you think it's only 8 years or so since we were playing championship football, even if the academy was spot on from the ground up 8 years ago, kids that are coming in are potentially only 18, 19 now. So I think there's a lot of work and a bit of long-term thinking has to be applied to that. Again, it'd be interesting to see where Craig actually ends up and what his next move will be. So it's certainly interesting time at all levels. I think it is just a kind of good moment for Rangers to have a big picture reset and a big picture look at every single aspect of the club. There's a bit of continuity there also with John and James stepping up into their respective roles, and the two of them will now drive this next era, both on and off the pitch.
And on that note, we'll call time on this era tonight. So a big thanks to Chris and David for their contributions tonight. Great stuff from them, as always. We were live tonight. We were live on YouTube, but the show will be available to download and stream on a variety of platforms from tomorrow, including Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify, all those things. As I said, a big thanks to Chris and David. We'll have a show out on Friday. The preview show will be out on Friday night for the Celtic game, obviously, on Saturday. I believe it's Big Eck and Stuart Weir who are on that. So tune into that. I think that'll be at 9 o'clock. On the Friday night. In the meantime, get yourself onto the Gersnet website and forums at www.gersnet.co.uk. Before I go, I have to pay tribute to someone yesterday. It was a huge day for this person, as we all know. A very big moment. It was my son's 18th birthday, and he's not just my son. He's the Gersnet outside broadcast cameraman, and a more disinterested cameraman you'll never find. But he had his first legal pint in the Horseshoe yesterday, so we were out, had a couple of pints and a laugh and some food. So, yeah, happy birthday to him, and that's that. So, until the next time, guys, bye for now.